Sequoia Blue back in here with another episode. We have a guest today. We got John Mendez, and it's a rainy day over here in Vegas, but hope everybody's doing all right where they're at. What's going on with you, John? Where are you located?
Hey, Sequoia, I'm super excited to be here, and it is also raining here in Connecticut. I'm based down in Stamford. Nobody usually knows but about Stamford geography, like Connecticut geography. So I normally just say I'm like 45 minutes out of the city, no traffic.
Well, yep, but you got a Connecticut born baby here. I was born in Middletown, Connecticut. So I got family in
Really?
Stanford. Yeah, I still got
Yeah,
family in
like
Middletown.
I was born and raised in Stamford.
Wow. I always say Connecticut remind me of Wonderland sometime because it's always snowing. And I used to go out there and go to the Foxwood casinos when I was a little girl because my mom would always take us there and stuff. And it was fun. I was like, man, Connecticut's cool, but I wouldn't live there. I wouldn't live in Connecticut only because it's just the vibe there is different for me. But I do
Yeah,
like going there just to go to casinos and look around. So
it's one of
yeah,
those
so
things where
how would you say?
I, I said it's one of those things where it's like it's it's a very, I think, very neutral state. Like in terms of like we don't have super bad weather. It gets cold out here, but it doesn't get like super cold, like Michigan cold and Chicago cold. Like
Mm.
we don't have any tornadoes or earthquakes or hurricanes. Really, it's very just like we're just like
You know
eh.
what? That's true. It is real neutral. Yeah, because it's not like Atlanta where in Atlanta it didn't really snow a lot, but it was just like the rain. It was just raining every other week. Rain where you couldn't even see. I
Oh
was
my
like,
goodness.
oh my goodness. So yeah, that neutral place is better actually than some places that's popular like Georgia and Miami. Everybody's like, oh, Georgia, Miami, and Texas. It's like, I don't know. So tell us about your podcast. What's it called?
Wealth, walk to
Walk
wealth.
to Wealth. Yeah, what's that about?
Yeah. So a little bit about the podcast. It pretty much was so a little bit of context. So I grew up in the projects. Money was always tight. It was nine of us in a two-bedroom, Section 8. My dad wasn't around. Mom suffered from mental health issues. So my Dominican grandparents raised me. Money was never something we had in abundance at all whatsoever. Fast forward a little bit. Now I'm in my freshman year of college. Pandemic takes over the world. Now I was never entrepreneurially minded. School always came super easy to me. I didn't have a 4.0, partially because I was always skipping classes. I graduated like a 3.5 and a 12.30 on my SAT. So I
Mm,
mean I got into 13 colleges, which is good enough to get me into UConn. And so that's where I went for college. And there and once the pandemic happened, it really just everything just kind of shifted a little bit. And fast forward, it was my sophomore year now, and I was in the sophomore year, and I picked up Rich Dad Poor Dad, and that pretty much allowed me to see the world for another way that wasn't being taught in school, that wasn't being taught at home, and that wasn't being taught in my environment. And so I kind of just jumped down the rabbit hole of learning about personal finance and entrepreneurship. In my fourth semester, I decided to drop out of college, and
mm,
I never looked back since. And fast forward more from there, now it's around December ish of 2021. This was I dropped the trailer for the podcast, and the whole name really means to me, at least, wealth is more than just the monetary side of things. It's about abundance in all your areas of life, and there's more to wealth than just the monetary. And wealth and riches are two entirely different things. So the journey to
mm.
wealth is a long walk, and some may walk quicker than others. But what good is sprinting to the finish line if you pass out when you cross it?
Ooh, now that was a bar. That is so true. Like, because if you're not living to your on your way to success, and I tell myself this, then what is it? What are we doing it for? You still have to live. And true wealth is peace, you know. And yeah, the monetary is great, but the peace part it trumps it in health. Because if you don't have health and peace, then what was this all for? I like
Yeah.
that. And so, do you feel like having the right mindset is what it takes for like entrepreneurship? That it all boils down to mindset.
Yeah, I mean, everyone will tell you the same thing. It all comes down to mindset, no matter who you ask. And it sounds so cliche, but because it's so true. And for me, like, I have so many victim cards that I have the opportunity to pull at any time, and it would be perfectly justified. And so many people that would grow up in similar situations as I would will look at it, and then not to invalidate anyone's experiences, but it's like, man, everyone has it hard in one way, shape, or form. And so it's like so many people want to fixate on things that aren't serving their highest self, their best self. And it's like, for me, really overcoming that mindset and figuring out like there's more. Like that's what Rich Dad Poor Dad taught me. And it's like it wasn't the best book that I read, but it it laid out the information in a way that was easy enough to grasp for someone who's never heard of anything similar to that. And
Mm,
so it allowed me to see that there's another way of viewing the world out there. And I was curious and I wanted to see like what is this rich dad guy talking about? I know he's a fictional character in the book. I don't even think
mhm.
he had an actual rich dad in real life. I think it was just for the story of the book, if I'm not mistaken. But even still, it was like, well, that's the way his thought process isn't like anyone that I know personally. Let me go seek out some more information. And so like that mindset piece is everything when it comes to this journey, because especially when you're coming out of my situation or a situation similar and you're just force fed that victim mentality, you're force fed that everyone's against you, you're force fed that you have to go to traditional track, you're force fed all these different things. And it's like, well, you can, fall victim to what they're trying to force feed you, or you can decide to live a life by design. And there's a quote that I love. It's, when you're born, you look like your parents. When you die, you look like your choices. So what choices are you making? And are those choices
Yes.
serving the person that you want to become?
Oh, that was a word. Because everything does boil down to choices. It's like people be like, "Well, I have no choice." Well, technically you do. We all have a choice because you can say, "I don't want to go to work," and you can choose not to go. Yeah, and that whatever comes with that choice comes with that choice. I just feel like I never liked it when somebody said I don't got no choice, because I do feel like we all have a choice. And then, being in the, black community, growing up and stuff, they would say, "Well, this is all I can do. The man won't let me," or stuff like that you hear. And you're like, it is systematic racism. It is tough out here, but there is ways to go around it. If you know you're somebody that just not getting hired, freelance, and get on Upwork and stuff like that, instead of, so there's just certain things that I feel like we can do to shift our focus, because I believe in, energies and stuff like that. So it's like, if we're focused on what we're not getting, and what's going on, it's almost like you just keep getting it, because that happened to me. So, you know.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, like, for me personally, it's one of those things from what I experienced in my own life. It's too many people are poor because they focus solely on themselves. I can't make ends meet. I can't pay my bills. I can't keep food on the table. I can't. It's always I. And one of the guys that I interviewed on my podcast, we talked about this before we hit record, but like podcasting, you get access to people who are further along in life than you, and they drop a lot of gems that you could apply in your own life. And one of the things that he said was that money is just a token of appreciation. So if you got no money, you got no tokens of appreciations, essentially. And so it's like, well,
Mm.
how can I provide value? Because money, all it is a bartering tool, right?
Yeah.
It is a bartering tool, and it's people. There's this one comment I remember. I posted a reel last year, and it was a YouTube short, and one of the guys, a good friend of mine, he's a national public speaker, and he was on a podcast, and he mentioned that he gave a proposition. He was like, "Would you rather work for minimum wage for the guy that owns the grocery store, or would you rather work for free for the guy that makes 10 times what the guy at the grocery store makes,
Mhm.
who runs the grocery store?" Right. So there's one kind of comments like, "Oh, it must be so easy for you to say, to sit on a pedestal or something like that." And there's people out here, we still got to pay our bills. And there's people out here like we can barely make ends meet and minimum wage this
Mhm.
and da 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 da. It's like, why are you focused on the minimum wage? Why are you focused like that person who has 10 times more money than the grocery store owner? Although he's not bartering with you with money, he's bartering
Mhm.
with you with his time, with his experience, with his knowledge, so you can fast track your journey. And it's all a perspective thing. And people, too many people fixate like that's why I mean minimum wage. Yes, we have to make ends meet, and that's a whole nother topic. But it's like, w- why are you fixating on the bare minimum? And that's just
Mhm.
me personally how I see it. If there's only so low that you can go, why don't you focus on the ceiling, because there isn't any ceiling. There's only, you can take it wherever as far up as you want to take it. And as I said, I think it's just all a perspective change. Personally, as I said, grow up in the hood. Everyone I knew was black. I grew up. I'm Dominican and Guatemalan, so it's like, as I said, there's like victim cards I could throw out, but it's like
Mhm.
I don't want to use any. I don't want to say like, I don't want to look at myself in the mirror and be like, you know, everyone's out to get me, and I
Yeah.
guess it's not meant to be. And it's like, okay, everyone's out to get me, and what now? I'm gonna just roll over. It's
You
like, nah,
can't.
I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna make a way. And even if, and I don't believe this, but even if it was true that everyone is out to get you, that just
Mhm.
makes for a better story when you make it. So it's
Heck
like
yeah.
even more reason to go after it, right?
Yeah. I agree on that. That's good that you said that because it's like it doesn't matter. You know, Will Smith said there's racism and all this stuff going on. He said, I'm gonna go through it, I'm gonna go around it, I'm gonna go above it. And that's just what you do, because at the end of the day, that's how you I guess you could say nurture a better life without because I just feel like it's depressing to just be staying stuck in the moment. And that's how I changed my life. And that's why I said, let me start this podcast because I want to show people that none of this is really real. I mean, if we go on a deeper level, because that's why my podcast is about alchemy, because none of this is real. It's all made up, and we can all change the story. And that's why I like TikTok now. It's growing. A lot of people are talking about their stories now, and the energy of TikTok is amazing. Even though they're trying to ban it right now, but hopefully they don't get to ban it. But but yeah, I mean, I just like the. I don't know. The algorithm's crazy on TikTok, so I do like the algorithm, and so it's like a lot of people are learning about stuff that they wanted to know about, didn't know about, and I'm just reading the comments. I'm like a people observer, and I'm just seeing that people are learning. They're learning about IRAs and Roth IRAs and stock. They're just learning more. So it's just there's so much information not to go after it. And that's how I feel, you know. So
100%. It's almost to our own detriment. Almost that's a critical part because there's so much information. Now you gotta figure out, all right, who's a good source, which is a whole nother issue. But it's like, I mean, rather have a large access to it, easily access to it, than not have any access to it. And now with internet, there's no excuse anymore for you to not go out
man,
there and make it your dreams happen. It's literally just like if you're actively holding on to excuses, just say you don't want to be successful. And I'm not, and I said successful and not rich because money isn't everything. Success is
mhm,
subjective. So whatever
mhm.
success means to whoever's listening right now, and you're still holding on to excuse, just tell yourself you don't want to be successful. That is because there's literally no excuses anymore.
Yeah, success is that you can go to sleep at night and feel good about yourself in life, and that could be rather you're making 60,000 a year, or it could be million, but whatever makes you feel good at night, it should be comparative to others because that's the thing with even artists. I tell artists, you put your music out. You don't need to be a celebrity. You don't need to be Jay-Z or anybody. Just keep putting it out because guess what? Once you do that said thing, it's out there. You don't need to be a millionaire
Yeah.
from it. You're already an artist. You can say, "Hey, I'm a Grammy." You can say you're a Grammy what is it, Grammy nominated artist right now. You can say it because why? None of it's real. So you can just say it right now. And that's what I tell people. As long as you're putting out that music and putting out whatever you got to put out, your podcast, whatever, you're already that said thing. So, so what other books would you recommend for like entrepreneurs or anybody's trying to pursue this?
Yeah. For entrepreneurship specifically, some of the books that helped me out the most personally is Think and Grow Rich, which is a super good book, a super fundamental book that just, as I said, that was the fourth book that I read. And it was just, as I said, it presents the information in a way that's so easy to grasp. Like sometimes if like, let's say you believe one thing and someone says something entirely new or entirely different or opposed to whatever it is that you got going on in your head, and it's like, it could come off offensive, but it's like these books, they introduce these topics that are so high level in a way that's easy to grasp for anyone no matter what level on their journey they're at, and it's something that stands the test of time. It's not like a book that what's the word I'm looking for lack of a better way to put it, it's not like a, I guess I'm blanking, but it's
No,
not
you're
like a
fine.
little thing that's here for the moment. It's not here
Yeah.
for the moment. There's a word I was looking for but and that was a really good one. Another really good one I love. And for entrepreneurship, I mean, you mentioned like I think personal finance is a good piece as well. I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi was another great book. Just
Oh
because if you're
yeah.
gonna get into entrepreneurship, you might as well learn how to manage your own money. Because God forbid you start getting money with your business, you don't know how to manage it. Good luck, especially now that your taxes are. We mentioned taxes earlier.
Mhm.
So it gets a little tricky when you're managing your own business and everything's commingled. So I'd say those would probably be my first two books, and I wouldn't give a giant list because then people will probably not get any of the books. So I'm gonna stick with two.
Well, that's good. That's good. Yeah, 'cause, and those books are good. I started reading, what was his name? Remy for How to Get Rich. What was it called?
Yeah, I will
Yeah, I
teach you to be
started
rich.
yeah, I started reading some of that. I didn't finish it. He was telling me not to get coffee and stuff, but, or, like, actually, I think he said to
No, he
get the
said do get
coffee.
coffee.
Yeah, he said,
Yeah,
"Do get the coffee," but then he said some to s I read it so long ago, but then he said, "Hold back on some other things," or something like that,
yeah.
but
Pretty much, he said spend frivolously on the things that you love and enjoy in life. Pick
yeah,
like 3 to 4 categories, and then everything else be the most frugal person you could be. Like that. That's essentially in a
it's
nutshell
hard.
what I got from it.
Yeah, and it made sense, and I didn't even finish the dang on book, which Imma finish it because 'cause I'm notorious for reading half books and then not
Yeah.
finishing it, but
But
there's
that's
some
another thing
gems in
too.
there.
Don't knock yourself for it. You gotta read what is depending on what is where you're at in life. So it's like you don't
Mm.
need to read a whole book to get all the value from it. Just read the parts that you need to know. This book talks about, let's say, personal finance. I just need to know how to get my credit card. Chapter 7, okay, read chapter 7, boom, next book, I'm out. And
You
then
know what? That's true. Because I was on YouTube one day and this guy was saying, how did he learn how to read fast? And he was teaching
yeah,
people how to read fast. And I said, and he wasn't really, he was just skimming through, like, but he understood what was going on and he probably zoned into what maybe resonated with him. But that definitely makes sense. So that's
yeah.
something y'all can
Speaking
do
about
for y'all people that don't like reading.
and then speaking about books, I'll give another book. So like Think and Grow Rich and I'll Teach You to Be Rich. That's more so like Think and Grow Rich is mindset. I Will Teach You to Be Rich is like personal finance, but for entrepreneurship, I forgot. I have it here. It's $100 million offers by Alex Hormozy. Now that
Hmm.
book is liquid gold. That book is amazing. So $100 million offers by Alex Hormozy.
Okay, write that down. That sounds good.
It
Because I
looks like
think Alex Ramosi, I think he's a podcaster,
good.
right?
Yeah, you got a podcast. This is his book.
Oh,
It's a
okay.
big. It looks. It's a
Let me write that down.
big book.
Yeah, cause I
Um.
I like his, commentary, like, he's so positive and, he kinda speaks to me in a way. Okay, I got it on my phone. I can add that in there, cause that's yeah, I gotta keep going with my books 'cause I used
Yeah.
to read a lot more and I kinda slacked, but I'm about to get back into
Yeah.
it. But, I wanna talk about serial entrepreneurship because you mentioned that you're a serial entrepreneur. Like, how do you juggle several businesses? And what are your several businesses?
So full transparency, I hired someone on Fiverr to make my bio look amazing, but I did have several businesses that I was running, not well, but was running right. So, full
Mhm.
transparency. So for me, I got licensed as a realtor at age 20. And so my goal was to get that going, get that popping off. Right. So I was running that. I also had a podcast that I was trying to get going as well. Around 4 months after I got licensed as a realtor, I started Walk to Wealth. So I had those two going simultaneously in January. So the month that my podcast episode debuted, I got asked to teach a class on social media. That class I taught
Mm.
in February had over 440 realtors from across the country and Canada sign up. So I was trying to pretty much run my own real estate, business and stop buying and selling houses. I was trying to, well, I wasn't trying. I was running a podcast and getting that off the ground, and I was pretty much teaching social media classes for free because up to that point in time, I still didn't even feel comfortable charging for stuff. I didn't. I was
Mhm.
doing it out of the goodness of my heart because, as I said, growing up, not coming from much, you're taught like pretty much. I mean, you're not taught to value yourself and how to price yourself and charge what you're worth. It's like they asked me to teach a class. I was like, okay, I just start teaching some classes, and it wasn't until they literally told me the second class, John, don't do another one of these for free ever again. Like, make sure you charge. And I'm like,
Mm.
okay. And I was super cringy because I remember they asked me, it was like, John, what's your WhatsApp? What's not your WhatsApp? What's your Cash App? What's your Zelle or something like that? Your Venmo? Literally during the Q&A section during the presentation live in front of everybody. And there were like 140 or so people in that Zoom. So I was like, I remember just feeling so awkward and just like, why are you guys trying to give me money? I don't know. I just felt weird about it. And so I was doing those three things on top of working at a restaurant. So I was trying to juggle all four and none of them were working at all. And what I did learn is that procrastination can be your best friend if you allow it to be. And I was doing all these different things, and I was trying to go a mile wide, inch deep in all these different endeavors and juggle all. And mind you, I'm wearing all the hats on all these things at the same time. I wasn't on a real estate team. I was a solo agent, right? The
Mm,
podcasting, I don't have an admin. I'm booking all my guests. I'm looking for all my guests. I'm editing all my episodes. The social media classes, I come up with
mhm,
all that stuff. I create the presentation. I had to send out the emails. I had to send out the invites. I had to use Mailchimp. Like I'm doing
wow.
all the hats for all these things, and I'm still working at a restaurant on the weekend, close to like 30 hours. So it was like I was like spread so thin, and it looked like I was doing a lot because I was, but I wasn't making any progress in any of the things. So to wrap up my
Mhm,
point, procrastination can be your best friend because a lot of times people procrastinate because they're scared. You know, they may be nervous, they may have some worry, some anxiety. Sometimes you procrastinate on doing what you know you got to do because you're not aligned. And for me, I was trying to do all these different things, and I knew what I had to do. I'm very hardworking. I'm charismatic. I have very optimistic, good energy. I have all these traits to be a successful entrepreneur. Despite that, I was failing in literally everything that I had my hands in. So it's like, what
mhm,
on earth is going on here? And it took some reflection. It took some time to think. But once I really realized that I've been procrastinating, not doing the actual, money making activities or the dollar producing activities that I need to do, and I was like, okay, I'm not doing any of the things I know I should be doing. I'm not finding success despite me now being in this months now. Like, what's
mhm,
going on? And I was trying to pick up the opportunity that was calling and have a four-way conversation with all the different cell phones, and then I
mhm,
decided to freaking hang up on all the other three and just focus on the podcast solely. And that was the biggest thing that helped me start getting some traction, was focusing on one thing.
mm.
So the serial entrepreneurship thing, it looks good for the bio, but in all reality, that definitely threw me off course so much. And I probably could be further along. But you live, you learn, you grow, and you adjust. And so I'm glad I went through it now so I didn't
Yeah.
have to go through it in the future.
That's true. That's true. Man, that's a good testimony though, because somebody could learn from that. Because serial entrepreneurship is not for everyone, and it's very complicated. Because it's especially when you're solopreneur, you don't have a co-owner, you don't have this or that. Because like just doing my podcast, I'm doing this all myself, and people do reach out to me, but I'm like, I'm not at a place where I want to pay a whole team of people right now. I'm like, I can just do
Yeah.
this myself and save the money. So yeah, but these things is like it doesn't feel like work because it's like it's fun. You're meeting cool people, so it doesn't really feel like work, But it is something you have to do. You have to dedicate, and So yeah, that was interesting because there's a book called I forgot what it's. See, now I went blank, but there's a book about being a serial entrepreneur, people that are multi hyphenate. Because I call myself multi hyphenate. So I don't say serial entrepreneur. I'll say I'm multi hyphenate. Because sometimes things just happen. Sometimes things just land in your lap. But yeah, you do got to be conscientious of what you're doing. So that was a great example. And it says here you spent the day with a billionaire. So what did you learn from that billionaire? What are some tips?
I mean, we could probably have like 3 podcast episodes on everything I learned. But the
I
biggest
know, right?
thing, honestly, was the one that stuck with me the most, I'd say, was the idea of first creation and second creation. And it's pretty much the lives that we live in the reality is a life that we've already lived in the mind internally.
Mm,
So everything that we're living out right now, everything that we're experiencing right now is something that has already played out in our mind, whether we realize it or not. And by the time that we're 30, 35 years old, most of our synapses in our brain have already formed. So our life is pretty much for the most part running on autopilot the majority of our lives. So it's like
wow.
most people are asleep. Most people are on that conveyor belt and they don't know what's going on. They're just pushing on, right? They just, barely keeping it going because they don't know what's really going on. They're not awake yet. And so it's like
Mhm.
that idea of first creation, second creation, it gives you the power. And this rapper, I forget his name, but I need to start getting better with names so I can give credit where it's due. But
Yeah.
he dropped this quote, and it was like pretty much where we are today is an accumulation of our past thoughts. So in order to change where we want to go, we must change our thoughts now. And so it goes
Mm,
hand in hand with that idea of first creation, second creation. And so reflecting on why is the present reality not what I want it to be, and then going in reverse order to peel back the onion, knowing where it went wrong, and then changing those thoughts so that you can start changing what you're actually experiencing.
Yes. So basically that awareness.
Yeah.
Being aware, because Erica Badu was just on the Breakfast Club talking about how being aware can change your whole life. And I think when you're like that autopilot, like you said, you don't have time to be aware. I know people working 2 to 3 jobs, they can't think. I just watched a documentary yesterday called the 1619 Project, which, hey, check that out, everybody. But it's very deep because they didn't have time to go to school and all this stuff, or even just learn about something because they're on autopilot. And then they
Yeah.
get stuck in this job. This one lady said on the documentary, she was stuck at a job for 15 years. When she got with the job, it was only paying 5.15 an hour, and then she still didn't get past 10 an hour after being there for 15 years. But her mind was just on autopilot. She said, I had to survive. This is what I had to do. And then she got away, like after her dad died, then she was like, oh, shoot, this is not right. It was like it woke her up to awareness. It's
Yeah.
real deep because people say do meditation and stuff to get aware, but it's really an internal thing. It's like, because I feel like we're all inner gods. I feel like we all are gods in our own way, to be able to say, okay, is this really what I want to do, or should I do this? Or but that's a whole nother topic. Look, I can talk on and on about
Yeah.
that stuff. How did you create your mission statement? What's your mission statement, though?
I mentioned it earlier. I might have like touched on it, but it's pretty much my mission in life is to enlighten and empower young adults to build wealthy, abundant lives. So, in terms of creating an actual mission statement, the formula is pretty straightforward. It's my mission in life is to blank, put in an action word. It might be teach, inspire, educate, empower, whatever it may be, motivate, uh, whatever it may be, right? And then your ideal avatar. So for me, it's young adults. And then after that, it's how are you going to do that? So my mission in life is to empower and enlighten. Those are my verbs. My ideal audience is young adults by helping them build wealthy, abundant lives. How are you going to help that ideal avatar? What are you going to do for that ideal avatar, essentially? And the
Mhm.
big thing I want people to take away here is there is a difference between a mission and a goal. A goal is quantifiable. A goal is something you can track. It's something that is objective. You know when you hit your goals and when you have not. You can check your KPIs, you can check your metrics, whatever you want to check. And if your goal is, let's say your mission statement is to, I want to help 10 entrepreneurs hit 7 figures, whatever. I don't know. Well, if you can actually hit that, that is just a goal. A goal is a check mark along the journey. The mission is essentially something that transcends you. It's something that's bigger than you, beyond you, something that you'll never reach. It's kind of like Moses in the desert, right? He was never going to get to the promised land, despite that he had a certain mission that he had to do to get the God's people in the position to even reach that promised land, right?
Mm,
Similar to Moses, you may not ever get to that summit. You may not ever help 1 billion people live a happy
yeah,
life, right?
yeah.
Right. But you on that journey, there are going to be tons of goals that you hit along the way. And although you
Mhm.
may not hit it, you are helping the next and the next and what's to come. So that's the difference between an actual mission statement and just a goal that you hit.
Oh, wow. I never, what? That was like a aha moment because I've never looked at it that way. But that
Yeah.
makes so much sense because, when I'm looking at everybody going through stuff and I watch the documentaries, and I'm like, I can't help all these people. Even if I became a billionaire tomorrow, I can't help everybody. So it's like, it's just, you'll never get that mission statement complete. It just won't happen.
Yeah.
Wow, that is deep. But you can get that goal, though. I
Yeah.
love it,
And
man. You're a
and
sharp
knowing that.
dude.
Thank you.
You're very aware and you're young, so that's good. I would say, what would you say to your younger self? I would usually say, what would you say to your 18-year-old self? But you look 18, so I'm like, what?
21 years young.
Okay, so what? Look, now I have to ask you, what would you say to your 16-year-old self? Because you're 21.
What would I say to my 16-year-old self? I would say, honestly, I would say you're on the right track and leave it at that.
All
Honestly,
right.
because you're a deep thinker. I could just tell. It's like you know how it works. It's like you change one thing, you don't know how the butterfly effects ends up playing out, right? So it's like, yeah, could I have reached this point sooner in my life had I started a little bit earlier? But it's like I genuinely enjoy the journey, and I'm very grateful for where I'm at now. And I already got, God willing, tons of life ahead of me. So it's like I would just tell him, "You're on the right track." I wouldn't try to change anything. I wouldn't try to, give him some free game to like help fast track his journey. It's like enjoy the process. It's you have green pastures ahead of you.
I love that, bro, because it's like, when you mentioned Butterfly Effect, you made me think about that movie with Ashton Kutcher where he's trying to go back in time to change things, but it never got better. Something else bad happened, or something else. This person leg was off, or this and that. It's like, and I think that's if people start thinking like that, man, you just be present all the time, like Osho wants you to be, the famous philosopher.
Hmm.
So before we wrap it up, I want to know like what courses do you have coming, or books, or what's your website so people can come and check you out.
Yeah, definitely. So my big thing in terms of helping working with people, I help people with marketing. That's my expertise. So I help mission driven real estate agents build a strong online presence without the stress, worry, and overload and burnout that comes with traditional marketing strategies. But in terms of the podcast, check me out at Walk to Wealth. I talk about a lot of this stuff, and I interview tons of amazing people similar to yourself. So check
Oh.
me out at walk the number two wealth.com. Again, that's walk number two wealth.com.
Nice. Yeah, I'm be checking you out too, That's so much look. At night, that's my catch-up time. I read the books because I have guests that come on. I'm trying to read their book. They send me books in the mail and I'm like, let me finish this
Yeah.
book. And it be some good books. I'm like, oh man. So, but I'm trying to catch up because I wanna show appreciation to where it's due to everybody. So
Yeah.
um so before we go out, I want to know, you said a lot of quotes. You did say a lot of quotes and sayings, but I do want to know what's a saying and a quote that you go by. Saying or a quote that you go by.
The duty of the enlightened is to enlighten the unenlightened. Plato.
That was great. I love that. The duty of the enlightened is to enlighten the enlightened.
Enlighten the
What?
unenlightened.
Enlighten the unenlightened. Oh man, that is it. Because that's what this is about, an artist, because I think this is all art. Podcasting is art, and like, what's her name? My singer Nina Simone said, an artist's job is to reflect the times, and that's what this is about, is to enlighten. So I love that. So thanks. I want to say, oh, before we go, does he have any final words for our guests before we close up?
I'd say, I mean, we talked about a lot of different topics, but if anyone right now is interested in this conversation, I guess my biggest piece of advice, because we mentioned a bunch of different things, is
Yeah.
know that you can either be a product of your environment or a product of your decisions, and everything falls back on you. We talked about choice. Don't ever give up your power to anyone else. The choice is, yours to make. You will always have a choice, and unless you take back control of that choice, until you stop saying that you don't have a choice, until you stop saying that, oh, he made me do it, or she made me do it, whoever made me do it, until you take back your power, you're probably gonna be stuck for a while. So use this as your this is me giving you permission to go take your power back.
Yes. And if someone don't know how, do you recommend, I know therapy is going around a lot. Everybody's like, "Oh, get a therapist." But do you recommend them saying, "Go get a therapist so you can know how to get over that trauma?" Because what if somebody, I don't know, said mean things to someone growing up and they don't know how to get rid of it? It's like, I think therapy, or someone that you can trust, that is, like I would say, enlightened, or that can, because a lot of times you go to some people and they compare their story to your story,
Yeah.
and you need someone that can detach from their story and just really look into your soul. And I think that's important. So even if it's not a therapist, someone that can mentor you, or someone that can help you get there. Because,
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. It's mentorship is extremely important. I'd say for the most part, and this is just my way of viewing the world, but it's like a lot of us have first world problems. And so go out and travel, go to a third world country, and a lot of stuff you're probably complaining and nagging about isn't going to be as big. Not to say that you're not going through hard times, not to say you have to compare your issues to anyone else's, but go broaden your horizons a little bit, and then you'll see a lot of stuff that you may be complaining about. In the grand scheme of things, you should actually be grateful for.
Oh man, snap, snap. See, that is so true because look me, I'm a curious person, so I'm always seeing stuff, and I watch documentaries all the time, and there's so many people stuck in these countries and can't, like Syria, what's going on over there. It's a lot of stuff going on, and they literally can't. It's hard for them to get up out of that bucket. They're in the little at the very bottom of that bucket, and it's like, how can they get out of that bucket? And I'm looking like, dang, they just far away from getting out that bucket. And
Yeah.
here we do have more of a chance to get out that bucket. Is it easy? No, but you can do it. I'm telling y'all, just do it. So, man, that was a good final word, man. Yeah, we gotta have you come back on here so we can talk about some spiritual stuff. We gotta get to get into the mind a little bit more.
Yeah,
You know I
yeah,
do
why
that.
not? Why not? Why not?
Yeah, and the marketing, great. I'm happy you're doing this because it's marketing. I had to take a marketing class myself because I didn't know how to do ads or anything like that. Last year, I took a marketing class for free on Coursera, and it changed my life.
Yeah,
And I'm like, it's important to know this stuff because it let me know why I failed in the past.
yeah,
Because I wasn't doing my ads right. I wasn't targeting the right people. I'm just throwing ads out. There's a recipe to this, you guys. And
yeah.
hit up John Mendez if you don't want to learn it. It's okay because it's a lot of work. So if you can have someone else help you or and automate the process, then do it because it's definitely a recipe to this. And if you learn that recipe, I swear to God, it works. And it is also about budget too, because of course. But at the end of the day, if you really to take your time, you don't have to spend 2,000 on ads like someone else. You can say, okay, this is my budget of $50, and you do it every month consistently because then you can get the algorithm you know and that's important. So and now you got Chat GPT and all these people that can write your content. Look, that's what I use now. But but anyway, let me go ahead and let John go, y'all. I'm getting over my time, but I want to say
Yeah.
thanks for everybody for rocking with me. Please subscribe and share. Please support John Mendez and spread his messages, and everybody stay safe out there. Peace.